Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie spoiler review. And today I will be covering the Adam Sandler Netflix movie Murder Mystery that came out in October 2019. Now, before we begin, I just want to let you know, I have my window cracked a little bit because it's nice. It's 80 degrees, it's gonna be some hot weather finally for a while, so it's kind of stuffy. I just want to make sure some air is circulating, so if you hear like kids screaming in like the background or birds chirping, that's that. um anyway, like I said, this movie stars Adam Sandler as Nick Spitz, an NYPD officer. Jennifer Aniston plays his wife, Audrey Spitz, a hairdresser, and a murder mystery novel enthusiast. And this being like the second time in a long while since these two were paired together in a film. The first being the movie Just Go With It, which I honestly want to put on the list for February romantic movie theme month. In fact, I probably should do it right now because it's actually pretty fun. Adam Sandler, has some, fun movies. All in all, it doesn't pan out, but it all depends. It's like, not every comedy is, your kind of comedy, but pretty sure I did Just Go With It as like a movie review before. Did I do that? I did a lot of these. Uh uh let me check. Yeah, I actually did do it. Oh yeah, okay. So never mind. So in case you haven't watched my review on Just Go With It, the Adam Sandler Jennifer Aniston film, check it out, because I did that last year in February. So yeah, check it out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. It's like I knew, it's like, God, I feel like I've done that. So, like I said, I did a lot of these. It's been like uh a lengthy couple of years. Probably going on to the third year by this October, November, or something like that. Anyway, other cast members: Luke Evans as Charles Cavendish, the aristocrat. This being like the second movie I'm reviewing with Luke Evans starring in it. First being one of my earliest movie reviews for the Halloween season, which is one of my highest Halloween movie reviews that I still have, is Dracula Untold, which I still say he was the best Dracula. If you haven't checked out that movie, please check it out. Check out Dracula Untold, and check out my review of that, by the way. Follow me on links in the description, of course, and see my thoughts on that film. Terrence Stamp as Malcolm Quince, elderly billionaire and Charles's uncle. Gemma Arterton, as Grace Ballard, an actress. David Williams as Toby Quince, Malcolm's only son. Danny Boone as Inspector Delacroix. John Kenai as Colonel Ulinga, a former bodyguard of Malcolm. Adil Akhtar as the Maharaja. Olafar Dari Olfason as Sergei, a bodyguard to Malcolm and the Colonel. Luis Gerardo Mendez as Juan Carlos, a Formula One race car driver. My seat keeps, dipping on me. Probably have to get like a new chair or something eventually, but not in the near future. Not until the near future. Soloi Kusuna as Susie Nakamura, Malcolm's fiance and Charles's ex. And Eric Griffin as Jimmy Stern, a colleague of Nick's. So these two couples, these Spitzes, they live like a normal life. They've been married for 15 years. Here's the thing, because they're about to celebrate their 15th anniversary, and if they've been married for 15 years, you would imagine they should have like a kid by this point. I'm just flabbergasted. They made two of these. I will be reviewing the sequel to the murder mystery after this video, but it recently came out. But I'm like, dang, how is it that they don't have some kind of kid, like at least somewhere around like 10 years old or something like that at the very least? Yeah, so they're just childless. They never really speak on that, but if they make a third one, it got to include some kind of kid or something. It just seems weird to me. But anyway, they live a nice normal life in New York, and Nick is bummed out because he keeps failing his detective exam. Also mainly because his marksmanship as a police officer is awful. And as he puts it, he freezes up. But it's like, okay, I never trained in the police academy before, but you won't even be a cop in general if you don't know how to aim and shoot properly. I mean, you gotten this far, so it's like, I find that weird. It's only now that you can't make it to the position of detective, but you shouldn't even be a cop if you can't aim and shoot properly, because you might accidentally hit an innocent bystander. So it's like, that part seems weird to me. They never really address that, but he's still a cop. And don't say like, oh, like maybe he's just on desk duty. It's like, no, generally he's still a NYPD officer, and we can look it up. I imagine that one of the qualifications to even make it as a police officer is aiming and shooting, because you'll be handling a deadly weapon and you need to know how to use. It's not like only detectives get to shoot. So I'm gonna mess with my mic. Nick, like Audrey is at work talking to her girlfriends. They all, complain about like, their guys, and they're not being like romantic as they should, and Audrey bring up that when her and Nick got married, he promised that they'll go to Europe for like a honeymoon thing, but they never did. And so so this kind of a catalyst of the story. And I was questioning whether or not to do this review now instead of saving it for February next year, because there is some kind of like romantic things I want to talk about with this couple, but I'll just address it here. I like their dynamic because not only because the actors got great chemistry, but the characters of Nick and Audrey come across as people who definitely been married for a long time. They know how to bounce off each other. Like, they act like a real couple. How many times, if you've been in like a long enough relationship, you ask your partner to go pick up something and like they don't get the right thing, and it's addressed here. Of course, he got the wrong thing, not because he forgot, is because it's $1 cheaper, which kind of understand. I'm not gonna fault him for that, but she asked him for something specific, just get it, but I agree. It's like it's kind of how I feel about like the healthier foods that you want to have. It's the most expensive compared to stuff that you should not have. It's like a weird freaking conspiracy. I mentioned a lot of times that should be like flipped, shouldn't it? But the stuff that you arguably should probably be better medicine is I know it's only $1 more expensive, but still though, it's weird. Anyway, so he's supposed to get the Claritin. He gets another thing. I'm about to say Allegra or something like that. I might be wrong. But you get to see Nick's skills as an officer, because mentally he is sharp as a tack. And he just instinctively know that this kid is about to rob the store, and the way they can carry himself, and like how like uneasy he's being, and it's like he's not one of those kind of like headstrong cops. It's like, hey, you're gonna put those back, and it's like, what you gonna do? I'm gonna mess you up, old man. Oh man, okay. And he shows us his badge, and he shuts up really fast. And Nick, obviously, he let the kid go if he puts the stuff back and not gonna bust him. But it also shows the fact that like he's like I would say like a friendly neighborhood kind of Spider-Man kind of situation, but it's like he's the man of the people kind of situation. It's like I'm not gonna ruin this kid's life over some energy drinks and some bag of chips. So I'm not gonna, like, I'm tired. He's like, also on the, it's like, I'm not gonna mess up this kid's life. Also, I don't want to deal with paperwork, and I'm just gonna go home and sleep. I'm hungry. So he's like, just put the stuff back. I don't have to bust you. And it's like how honest he is. I just want to go home. I'm tired as hell. I'm tired as hell. So, when Nick and Audrey are home, like I said, this is like a good representation of like a couple that's been together for a while, and they have like typical marital problems where it's like, because I experienced this, I'm pretty sure a lot of guys experience this with a girl when you can tell when she's like got a bug of her butt about something, and like just the way like just the eyes glare, and like she brushes her teeth kind of furiously and stuff like that. Okay, well, what's up? I can tell something's wrong. Well, what's up? And then so she just lets it out, which I argue is still kind of healthy, because she didn't let it stew. She just directly just tells him what's her problem, which in most other movies, to some extent in real life, women aren't just direct. They want to do passive aggressive kind of stuff instead of just, because clearly you're upset. We obviously see you're upset. Just tell us what is wrong, because men, if something's wrong, men tend to want to fix it. Not just hear you vent. Like, clearly something's wrong. Tell me so we can try to fix it. And she just tells him like, why we never go anywhere, Nick. Like you promised, it's been 15 years, you promised we'll go to Europe, and we never gone to, and stuff like that. And Nick already feeling a little insecure, because he really want to make detective to get better pay and everything like that, but he feel like he can't be honest with, which is not the right move. You got to be honest with your partner. You live in a life together, you took vows, you gotta be like the utmost honest with each other, and you both have to accept whatever honesty comes your way, and not attack a person for being straight up with you. But Nick feeling like, insecure. It's like I spent years trying to, well, not years, but I spent my life working as a cop, working my way through to try to make detective, and I failed. And I don't want to come back home to my loving wife as a failure, because understandably, guys don't want to look like a failure to their women. So he's been like trying to keep that fact from her as long as possible. So in order to avoid getting found out about that, he just like blurts out like, "Oh yeah, this our you ruined the surprise. I was going to surprise you with our trip to Europe. We're actually going to do it this time." And so now he has to scrounge up the money and pay for the plane ride, and like all the stuff he's planning on is all what he can scrounge up together just to make it happen, because by technical reasons he's making it happen, but it's not that it needs to be 5-star luxurious from point A to point B, but he's not even like point B to he's not even on the B level. Like he is like probably low average C to C plus. So they take the plane ride, and because the stewardess wanna is telling Audrey that earplugs is like $8, which is freaking ridiculous. The airlines, man. So she sneaks into the front, the first class cabin, tries to steal some earplugs there that's left out, and she meets up with Cavendish, and she is chopping it up with him, and tells him about her love of murder mystery books and stuff like that. She's real like murder mystery buff, and he explains he's on his way to Monte Carlo to read, to be part of this reading of this will or signing or whatever like that, because of it's just like typical murder mystery things, like like a rich person leaving his inheritance kind of situation with a motley crew of friends and relatives. um um Nick comes in, and everybody's introducing each other, and Cavendish invites them along because he's having a good time with his couple, and he invites them along to the on his yacht where they're gonna be having this thing. But Nick is hesitant on that, and Audrey is like over the moon by it, because it's like, oh my god, a luxury yacht and going to Monte Carlo and staying like a fancy place and blah blah blah. And once again, kudos to Nick. He just like outwardly explains, and he doesn't behave like your typical like Hallmark or stupid rom-com thing where he's like outwardly jealous, or like, of course he's jealous, but he's admitting that, yeah, I don't have what he has. Like he tells her like, hey, it's like, like, what's wrong with you? It's like I put all this together, and sure, I mean, I'm not like a duke or an aristocrat or anything like that, but like I'm putting all this together. I'm doing this for you. And Audrey, rightly so, immediately acknowledges, she doesn't argue, she immediately acknowledges her mistake on her end. It's like, honey, you're right. You've been working so hard, and you've been saving up. You was trying to put all together for us, and I'm crapping all over it, and like, you know, that was not right, that was not fair, so I'm going to deny that thing, and we're going to go on a trip as we planned. It wasn't until they see that the bus they're supposed to be on is crowded, as loud, is full of like crazy people and they're loud children, and they see Cavendish is like, we changed our mind, and like, you know, and it's on now. So Nick and Audrey meets up with like all the other people who's going to be part of this inheritance reading. Here's the thing, and I'm glad they kind of addressed this in the sequel, but first and foremost, I want to point out, bravo to Adam Sandler and the writers behind this. I'm not sure if he's part of the writing staff or anything like that, but it's been produced by his, Happy Madison, company and everything like that. So he's part of it in some fashion. But I applaud Adam Sandler because a lot prior to like, Uncut Gems, which I really haven't seen. I don't really care to see it. I know what's about and everything like that. I know what happens in the end, but it's one of his like serious roles and stuff like that. But kudos to Adam Sandler to, well, Uncut Gems, I imagine, has no of his cliches. This has made a few cliches, but in the past, he just do the same routine that people gotten really tired of, that, he probably should have stopped after the mid 2000s at the very latest, because comedy evolves, and the same stuff we used to laugh about in like the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, doesn't translate anymore. And like having like Rob Schneider dressed up in a very offensive, stereotypical kind of wardrobe definitely played out. But here's the thing. You got an actual Hindu person playing like the Maharaja and everything like that, but he's talking like a stereotypical rapper. And that probably puts me off a lot more than anything else in this film, where it's like, not that he needs to do any stereotypical Indian accent or anything like that, but that's like, it's very, you ever watched Malibu Most Wanted, which is another movie I think I should really like review, because that has been like a long time since I've seen it, and that is very early 2000s, and most stuff there probably won't play well, at least I there's certain key moments that I still remember from that movie, but I kind of want to revisit that definitely next year. I don't know if it's going to be doing like a Black History Month exactly, but that is, because that is, man, that is like a throwback. But man, it's like, oof, God, that is just like I want to say it's like it's hard to say. It's like, is like actually like quote unquote racist, because it's not race. It's just like, it's of its time. I remember people loving this film back in the day, but man, it's like, I remember there's funny parts. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did, but I still remember enjoying it to some extent. Oh, but wow, that's a throwback. It's because of this. I just remember it right now because as I'm going over about the Maharaja, and it's like, wow, that is a definite throwback. Uh, um. Anyway, so uh, uh, these rich folk here. Most of them are rich folk, but these people like are really like sniping at each other, and like especially you see things like get like intense when Cavendish is sniping at uh Nakamura because she and him used to be engaged, but she ended up leaving him for his uncle, which is scandalous on its own right. And I love when Audrey keeps putting up how it's like clearly this is like a very shot for shot of your typical murder mystery thing where you got like jilted people in a room together, uh all having an axe to grind with a person who's the richest among them with an inheritance. And it's kind of like a recipe. It's very like just like Knives Out, both films. Uh, this is exactly why like I really wanted to cover Murder Mystery 1 and 2 because I cover all the both Knives Out films, both uh uh Hercule Poirot Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile films, uh, and and these two murder mystery films. It's like I wanted like and Clue. I wanted to like go over like as much murder mystery type films up on my channel. So if you are so inclined at any point, definitely check out those other films and uh, check out my reviews of them and let me know in the comments of those videos what you thought. Uh, but man, that was just like messy. It's like how like she is like an example of for the streets. That like that is just nasty. Like you left your fiance for his uncle. That is just you're dirty, and that uncle is like you shouldn't even like don't even want anything to do with that guy. It's like what kind of it's like what kind of relative does that? It's like oh my god, it's gross. It is just and the perfect example of like a dirty old man. Uh, so later on the night, just to show how much of like a of a high status he is, or like how above he is over everybody else, he comes in via helicopter, landing on the yacht, and and walks in the room and just points out that none of you are worthy of my heritage. You're all greedy and selfish and blah blah blah. And so I'm leaving everything to Susie. And suddenly lights go out, uh, and lights come back on, and the uncle is stabbed to death. And this fool of a colonel, which like you're a colonel of the military, or probably used to be in the military. I'm not sure like his current status, but you're fooling around. It's like let me remove the knife. And it's like, and niggas like, no, don't remove the knife. And he removes it, like, oh, I'll put it back. Nope. It's like you're a soldier of the military. You probably should know better than to mess with a corpse of someone who just been murdered and with a murder weapon nearby. You should know better than to mess around with that. That seems really idiotic. So Nick just right away gets into like detective mode, even though he's not a detective. He goes right into detective mode and tells everybody, okay, everybody keep away from the body, do not touch anything anymore. He tells the captain to go, call in the authorities. Everybody goes in each other's rooms, lock the doors, because one of us here is a murderer. And I love how nonchalantly the Spitzes are acting. And it's like, honey, get the, he grabs like the big platter of shrimp, and he has Audrey like, hey, get the, cocktail sauce. And I love Jennifer Aniston's look. She gets everybody, and just follows him back to their room. And they had this debate around out who done it, and niggas like, I already know who done it. It was the son. And she doesn't believe that, and he points out to her that in like a situation like this, like if it was like a mother and like a husband and wife situation, and the husband died, 90% of the time it's the wife. But Audrey suspects more at play here. They hear a gunshot, sees the son that's dead. Oh, and I forgot. Don't forget, this part made me laugh, and maybe it's because of the delivery of Terrence Stamp, where he's like, bringing up everybody's name, like, Cavendish, always keep me on my toes. And my son, Toby, you're here. And then that was it. It's like, it just seems like the kid's just like in that kind of disappointment to that like, wow, just like a bogus like levels, man. But then a gunshot goes off. They go to the room where they heard the gunshot come from and see apparently Toby committed suicide. Or as I say, unalive himself. Be YouTube friendly. So the inspector starts interrogating everybody, and he starts talking with the Spitzes, because everybody just, even Cavendish, was kind of bogus of him, because you initially liked these two, but it's like, everybody just pointed a finger at the Americans. It was the Americans. And it's like, and then the inspector quickly just, jumped to the conclusion that, YouTube probably had the most to gain. It's like, you don't have that much money, and he had the money, and you probably was hired to take him out, kind of situation. And so he decided to talk with Nick alone, and he tells him that he pulls up his history, and he finds out that, hey, when you gonna tell her that you've been lying to her this whole time, because you're not a detective. So while he's still going through his investigation, he's not gonna put him in any holding cell, but he's holding on to their passports. So luckily, like, Cavendish has them held up in like a nice hotel, so they have like a place to stay. But then they talk with Sergey, who explains that it might be the Colonel, because the uncle, prior to Susie, had a thing with his fiance. Like, this dude is like relentless. And also found out that, the uncle had another heir, but that said woman died during childbirth along with the kid. And so there's definitely more to it. There was a knock at the door. They went to hide. Sergey got shot. They went, scrambling along outside of the window ledge like Spider-Man, and they notice like the Colonel in his room flossing, and then hop into an open window, turns out to be the Maharaja's room, and hide under the bed while the Maharaja and the actress, what's her name, Grace, I want to say Gabriel for some reason, Grace, had like a very short, sex session. And then like he, as they leaving out, he's like, I'll buy you a new hat. And Nick and Audrey just burst out laughing because this is like the most hilarious thing they heard. Yeah, and I probably would have been right there with them. So as they putting things together in this cafe, and the body of like Sergei was found, they see on the news that the detective points out that Nick and Audrey are the prime suspects, and it was through there when Audrey discovers about Nick lying about being a detective. Of course, you gotta have this kind of liar reveal kind of thing, and normally it's like played very stupidly in most movies, but I don't hate it as much here because you knew eventually, of course, you knew eventually these kind of things got to come out, but the way it comes out probably would make sense, especially if they're like, in the middle of like a crime investigation kind of thing, and they're like the prime suspects. Of course, the news is gonna point out that about their information so people can find them and stuff like that. So it makes sense that you find out that way. But usually I love it when certain situations where it's like they cut to the chase with the liar reveal thing, so they don't let it drag on for the bulk of an act. I'm pretty sure like I pointed out a movie that did this in one of my reviews. I'm not sure if someone want me to say it was Frozen, but I could be wrong. But one of the movies I reviewed on the channel, I pointed out about how quickly the live reveal thing, was handled. Let it sit for a minute and move the heck on. We got smart writers involved just to speed things along. So Audrey needed her space because of the fact that this whole entire trip was based on a lie. She just needed some space to think. She eventually gets picked up by Cavendish, and they ride off in his limo while Nick buys some burner phones. And Audrey notices that in his car there's Claritin in there, and knowing how she knows earlier that Susie also uses Claritin because she has probably the same allergies as Audrey, but also point out it's in Japanese because it's the same box, but it just got Japanese words on it instead of English. And now it leads Audrey to suspect that Cavendish and Susie was probably working together in order to commit the murder, in order to get the inheritance. And Nick, is following. They saw Susie on the street, and he was following her. They all convene on this library, and where they both end up getting shot at by a mysterious gunman. They get away, but then bump into a mass assailant that's shooting blow darts, hits Susie in the neck, and she ends up ultimately dying in a ridiculous way. She goes out trying to play charades with Audrey in order to let her know who was involved. Nick bumps into Juan Carlos, and they chase after this masked person. Nick throws like a plate at the assailant, and it knocks off the mask, but the mask person gets away. Um, so they both go to the uncle's estate where they think Cavendish will be at. They go there and they find Cavendish, which I kind of feel bad because I like Luke Evans. I didn't really want him to die in this. They find him dead in his chair with a drink in his hand and leave him to believe that he was poisoned. So they already called the detective and getting everybody together in this one place to do the big reveal. So they all point out how that Grace is the daughter of Malcolm, who was suspected to have died in childbirth, but she didn't. And she changed her last name so that way she can rise up. I mean, it's like a very long kind of con situation. She became like a big movie star and got involved in said family that the father did not want kind of situation. Well, I think they kind of kept that secret or something. I don't know. But it turns out she's the one that was involved, but there wasn't no proof. One second. Nick and Audrey didn't have any physical proof that she was involved in any kind of way. However, because of Audrey's hairdressing skills, you notice that why are you wearing a hat when you got perfectly done hair? Because I'm a hairdresser, and like I love Nick's like response is like, because she's a goddamn hairdresser. Because like it's like a good moment for her. It shows how well they work as a team. Like, honey, I done a lot of hair over the years. When a lady gets her hair done, there's no way she's gonna cover it up with a hat. Especially when it's freshly done, like yours. So the detective removed her hat, and you see like there's a cut on her forehead where Nick threw the plate at the assailant who killed Susie, and she tried to take Audrey hostage, but because Nick took a gun and with good perfect precision hit Grace in the arm and neutralizing her. So it shows that like how on a intense situation, those instincts do kick in. But then they soon discovered like there was like an actual assailant that killed Sergey, and it was Juan, because how they find out, somebody said something. I don't know if it was one of the Spitzes or the Maharaja, but they said something to Juan, and he understood it perfectly because there was like a joke where he doesn't speak English. He just says things like, "Me go fast, yes," like very fast, and just like because he probably done so many interviews, he just say very fast, and it's like it's like probably typical questions you probably usually get asked. He just knows how to respond in English, but doesn't know how to speak it fluently. But it turns out he understood perfectly, and in fact he speaks fluent English, and he takes the inspector hostage, and it turns out that his father died because of Malcolm. After his life got saved from an assailant, it caused his father to get hurt in the process. So Audrey and Nick go in a high-speed chase, chasing him down to save the inspector, and they uh I want to say derail, but run. Uh, they cause the vehicle to crash. They managed to get the inspector out safely, but one puts a gun on Nick, and then the bus that Audrey and Nick was supposed to went on comes out of nowhere. So for some reason, nobody has peripheral vision. Comes out of nowhere and it hits Juan, effectively killing him. Kind of like some kind of twist of fate. So the movie ends with the inspector providing, as thanks for everything, giving like a more proper honeymoon vacation on the Orient Express. So, and that's where the movie ends. I mean, this is actually a really good film. And of course, to some critics, it was like, fairly average. I actually really like this. Like I said, my probably biggest issues with like the Madarada character, not like the actor is bad, but this, early 2000s stereotypical rapper motif kind of thing it was weighs on my ears a bit. But beyond that, like the actors, doing like a great job playing their particular roles. Some might argue like the Audrey and Nick bickering moments probably can, weigh on you a little. And I kind of get that in the sequel more so than the first one, but it doesn't bother me so much because that probably would be like a typical argument between a couple that's been together for a while. I have two really good friends of mine, who when I'm in a car with them or over they place, they tend to like argue almost like that. And it's like, I don't know, because they're just both Leos, but it's just like it's like, but they're good people, and it's like, there's moments they, not saying like they got like a toxic relationship. It's not like that, but it's just like a typical couple that have their moments of argument. You don't need to read too much into it beyond that, so it doesn't bother me that much. But I also enjoy the fact that there's very little of the Adam Sandler cliches that kind of will be overpowering of the movie. Something like Pixels, which is kind of like drowning. I think that's where it's like it really went overboard with the Adam Sandler isms, and that people just had that last straw with Adam Sandler type of comedy films. That's why you had to take a break, and then when he came back and started knocking out of the park with Uncut Gems, that's what I think is like, you need like a long break, kind of like Dave Chappelle. Like, you need like a decent long break, and when he comes back in full force. But anyway, I'll see you guys in a few minutes as I cover Murder Mystery 2. And then after that, I might get right into Overwatch 2 for tonight. But anyway, I will see you guys in a little bit. And leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of Murder Mystery, if you saw it, because it's on Netflix, both this and the sequel. Definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. It's a very good Adam Sandler film. It's nice to see him and Jennifer Aniston together, because if not Jennifer Aniston, Drew Barrymore, I think, or Marissa Tomei, I think Adam Sandler has great chemistry with these ladies, and they play well off each other as far as like being like a couple. You believe it. It's really, really good. And some say like, oh, Adam Sandler makes movies just to take his friends on vacation. I wish I was one of the Adam Sandler's friends. I would like to go on to Paris or Hawaii and just shoot a film and have a good time. It seems like great. I mean, it's like I'm not gonna knock him for that. Why would I? Why would anybody? But anyway, I will see you guys in a few minutes for Murder Mystery 2. See ya.